Can I get a round of applause for all? And Whoopi's going to come down. My name is Megan O'Neill. I'm the Associate Shorts Programmer here at the festival. I am going to have, I can't remember all these people, so I'm going to have each person introduce themselves and say the name of the film.
Hello everybody, hope you enjoyed this, it was great. My name is Nuria Blanco. I'm actually the producer of the film Late Afternoon. The writer and director is Louise Bagnall, but unfortunately she couldn't be here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Becky Neiman, co-producer of BOW, and
Domi Shi, director of BOW.
Hi, I'm Javen Ivey, one of the animators on Two Balloons.
Hi, my name is Mark Smith, and I directed Two Balloons.
Alex Lubowski, Brooklyn Breeze.
Hi, my name is Pierce Freelon. I was a writer and director for History of White People in America.
John Halperin, one of the directors for History of White People in America.
Drew Takahashi, and yet another director.
My name is Ed Bell. I'm an animator on what was it called again? History. Thank you very much. History of White People in America.
Aaron Keane, I'm one of the music guys on History of White People in America.
Producer on History of White People in America.
Robert Pietri, I was the co-director of The Velvet Underground, played at my high school.
My name is Lee Terwilliger. I'm the animation lead on Velvet Underground, played at my high school.
Tony Ginelli, and The Velvet Underground actually played at my high school.
Hi, I'm Phil, as director of Fire and Cardboard City.
Rita Donahue, producer and writer on The Velvet Underground, played at my high school.
So, when I was coming down, one of my favorite people asked me to ask you all how long it took each of you to do your pieces. Oh, yeah, sure.
Maybe one person from each movie since you guys have so many.
This film, the Velvet Underground film, started in 1965 when I saw the Velvet Underground in high school. And I always wanted to make a film about it, and these two gentlemen made it happen in the past few years.
Is that good enough?
That's it.
Okay.
So it took us about a year. You're looking at the entire crew. There's no one, well, I guess Leslie is the only other one. Yeah, so we did this all ourselves. It took us about a year. And it's the first of 15 episodes. So.
It took me 8 months, and I used only MacBook Pro notebook using touchpad only.
With Two Balloons, we were 16 months in pre-production, building sets and storyboarding, 2 years shooting, and the rest was post, and it came out to about 4 years.
I came up with the idea about over 4 years ago, but I worked on it on and off at Pixar, and it took about 1.5 years of official production, but I was kind of working on it unofficially on nights and weekends. I don't know how many hours that was.
Late Afternoon took 9 months, and we had a deadline, so basically, as they say, you don't finish animation projects, you let them go, but this is it.
One of the things I want to ask about Brooklyn, oh, hello.
One more, the cardboard guy.
Oh, you just went over him. Yes. How long did it take?
It shouldn't have taken that long, but it took about 5 years because I had to do like work and life and all that kind of stuff in between, and most of what I tried to do didn't work first time, so it took a lot longer than I expected. But yeah.
Is this your first?
Yeah.
Wow. So let me ask you, What made you decide to? It made me laugh. It made me really happy. What made you where did that story come from?
Well, it was like doing the cardboard stuff come from doing this sort of short Star Wars thing called Star Wars Uncut, where I made 15 seconds of Star Wars, chucked it all together. And then the cardboard thing looked cool, and I've always been a fan of like Looney Tunes and that kind of thing, so I like violence and animation kind of go together.
Yes.
And it kind of can make people laugh, so that was kind of the aim.
Loved it. And so, knowing that the Velvet Underground took, maybe 30 years or so, you wanted to make this because why? Why Velvet Underground? What was it about that evening that got you?
Well, I didn't know how to process what I saw as a 15-year-old.
Right.
And I did continue to tell the story for years, usually at parties, and it always got a good laugh. So these guys convinced me this is a movie. And at first it was going to be kind of a documentary where I would find the people and ask them how it affected their life. But I've seen that a million times, and there's no existing footage or recordings of that show.
Right.
So animation was kind of the way.
Cool. So there are many of you, I assume here, because there is a long history of white people in America. You said this is the beginning of a how many parts did you say?
Hopefully 15.
15 part. So, why? I know why not, but why?
You know why.
I know why, but I want you to tell them why. Why did you do it? Why did you all decide to be part of this? Okay.
Well, John approached us with the idea, and he came all the way to LA from New York, and I figured since he came all that way, I should listen to what he had to say. Drew was, I was a fan of his work for a long time, and John told me that Drew was going to be involved. But before I even saw the script, I was ready to jump in and see what could happen, what we could make out of it, because I knew John was a really creative guy. And he had so much passion involved in it. There was an election about to come around, and I think he saw the writing on the wall. It was an election somewhere in the world that was happening, and we had a big conversation. And I think everybody had kind of the same. Once we all got on the phone together and started to talk about possibilities, we all had the same kind of emotional response to just the idea of trying to talk about the history, because everyone else outside the team that we talked to didn't know what happened.
Right, right.
And it just seemed like a story that needed to be told.
Right.
And John's idea was that we could start with that story, and that would be the birthplace of a kind of an identity that the country got for itself and hasn't really let go of yet.
Right.
So with 15 episodes, it could take us all the way to Trump. And
well, when we started it, it was before the election, and the 15th episode is titled "Why Is Obama Black?" Right? He's got a white mom, black dad.
Dominant genes, yeah. That happens.
So, yeah. But we hope by the time you get to that episode, you'll know the answer to it.
Right.
And it's not always. The original idea was to do the racial history of America using the vernacular of Schoolhouse Rock.
Love it.
And
Love it.
Aaron and Pierce took that and started making songs.
Right.
And so, I don't know, I'm having trouble telling you why you need it, because it seems so obvious we need to know our real history.
You would think, but you would think a lot of stuff is obvious. And yet we have to continue to have the conversation. I want to point out one thing. You may be the third animator of color I have ever seen in my life. Nice to see you. I know. I just wanted to point that out. It's kind of a rarity. We want to shift that also. We want to change that. We want to encourage people who have some feeling, maybe you're not the greatest writer. You might be a spectacular animator. You don't know. Check it out. I rarely lie. Now, let's talk about Brooklyn. I had so much fun, because I mentioned the Fleischer brothers earlier, and it just, when I saw it, that's where I went. I went back to the roots of animation. What sparked that?
Well, I lived in Brooklyn for 16 years and then I left. And ever since I left, I felt that I need to say thank you in a way. So that's my thank you to those 16 years of Brooklyn. But all those, most of the landmarks are gone, and one of my favorite bars, which is in the film Second Bay, which was in Red Hook, gone 2 months ago. So it's like, things in the film are disappearing.
Yes. Well, thanks for making them fun to watch and remember, because that's what memory, that sort of goes with what you're all talking about in terms of memory and what we feel and what we think. Let's talk about the balloons. I love a marsupial in the air. Where did that come from?
Originally, it happened while I was on a sailboat. During a long passage, I saw a funnel cloud for the very first time. It was about 400 feet high, and as I was watching it skip across the ocean surface, I was listening to a song in 3/4 time, a time signature of a waltz, and that's when the idea happened. And I guess it was the ocean, a song, and kind of a daydream that put it together. To answer about Lemurs, originally Two Balloons was going to be a live-action film, and when the hangars we needed to accommodate the dirigibles became unavailable, we had a scale problem really badly, so I turned to stop motion as a solution and to delve into a medium that I've always has captivated me since I was a kid, and I just felt like when we transitioned from live action to stop motion, we also went from actors to puppets, and I thought lemurs could help us suspend disbelief.
Lemurs, they don't play. You know what I mean? I just, the whole idea that they know of each other, but maybe they have this long distance relationship and then they're trying to get to each other. It's just like, oh my God. You know, I bought it. I bought the whole thing. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Let's talk about how I think one of the best things I've ever heard was when she eats him.
Yeah, that's my favorite part too.
I can hear all these mothers of children who may be moving in a different direction, and I could feel them all going, yes, 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 just keep your mouth closed. You know, where did it come from? I was almost going to say it's delicious. Where did it come from?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because the inspiration came from my mom. So I'm an only child with two very Chinese parents, and my mom would often hold me close, like as a full-grown adult, and be like, "Oh, I wish I could put you back in my stomach so I knew exactly where you were at all times." And I'm like, "Mom, that's sweet but creepy." And that creepy, sweet love was kind of like the inspiration, like the spark for this short. And I also wanted to do like a modern fairy tale, like the little gingerbread man, but with the Chinese dumplings. Yeah, and I just wanted to put like all my favorite stuff in a short, like Chinese food, cute old Chinatown ladies, food, lots of food, pork chops.
Has your mother seen it?
She hasn't seen the final version, but she's seen like really early story reels.
Oh, so she doesn't know yet.
She knows about the ending. She's like, oh yes, very realistic. And I'm like, oh, okay.
She's also a cultural consultant in our credits. She was a big influence. She would come and teach us how to make dumplings and the proper way to fold them and roll dough. Yeah, she was a big part of the making of this. Yeah.
It's just, maybe, everybody would.
So don't tell anybody.
No, we won't. And tell me, you and I have met before when you've brought another film. Why this one?
Well, the director, Luis Bagnall, wrote this story And well, funny enough, I actually accepted to be her producer without even reading anything. She just approached me in the stairs in the studio. Nuria, can we have lunch? I said, I have an idea for film and I want you to produce. I said, yeah, perfect, I will meet for lunch. And then I thought, I should probably have read first what I'm going to produce for next year. But when I read the script, she basically her mother and her grandmother had dementia.
Yes.
There was a bit of the relationship between them, and I thought it was really a very beautiful idea to bring a little bit more knowledge into the illness. I mean, the film doesn't teach anything, but we're hoping that it will spark some curiosity into this is still quite well-known illness.
Right.
And yeah, so I was actually remember being a little bit upset during the research process because we had to watch a lot of documentaries. We had a consultant that worked a lot with people living with dementia, and I used to tell my director, "Why are you doing this to me? That's like what I've done to you." And we worked together before and we loved it, and it was.
You okay over there? Well, one of the things that everything, literally everything that we saw today has something to take someone on a trip. Young, old, black, white, doesn't matter. And this is the blessing of animation to me, because animation has always taught, people have always sort of looked down on it as like a thing for kids. But animation is, for me, taught me about just about everything. Because if you're a kid who is not a reader, everything you know is visual. So for me, what you all do is like heaven and manna to me. So I want you to just know that, I think everybody really liked everything they saw. And when we turn this over to you, I will walk down with the mic.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Great questions. Do we have time for for questions from the audience, or are we going to have to switch theaters?
I will say I'll give y'all up to 2 questions.
She's the gatekeeper, yes.
Just don't get in trouble.
Okay, all right. So we have time for 2 questions. Anybody? Okay, that was easy.
So it took you 1 year to do this documentary, I call it. If you got 14 more episodes, I hope it doesn't take 14 more years.
Yeah.
All right. So, and where will we be able to see the next 14 episodes? Because I think it was fantastic.
Thank you. You'll see the next, this one and 2 more, which are written and being animated as we speak.
Please give them the mic, please.
You'll see this one and 2 more, which are currently being written and produced on PBS Digital through ITVS's Storycast, and ITVS is the funder of the first episodes. Beyond that, we hope to, I guess I'm going to make a pitch here, raise more money and keep going.
It'll be definitely worth it.
Thank you.
1 more question? Okay, got it, right.
I know unfortunately the director Louise couldn't make it, but hopefully you can answer for her. I was just wondering if the subject matter of the short was something personal to her, like she had experienced it through like a relative or something in her life, or was it just like something she was passionate about?
She did, yes. Her grandmother was living with dementia, so she was quite close seeing the relationship between her mother and her grandmother. And it was, what I really like personally about this film is that it ends in a positive note, and we really wanted to show that actually most of the time people that suffers more are the people around, the people that lives with the illness. And they're very precious about those little moments when they're recognized. And of course, after that moment, everything goes back and it doesn't get cured yet. But yeah, it was personal.
Let's do 1 more question.
Okay. We have 1 more question? Let's pick somebody in the back there. We're right there. Yeah.
Yes.
Could each of you please speak to what the biggest challenge was for you in the process
Yeah, just actually just trying to put that whole thing together, and as I put it together, it sort of kept falling apart and just kept not working, and you'd be pulling your hair out for every shot, and I don't know, just slowly coming together and thinking it would be done in a couple of years, and then becoming depressed that it wasn't, and so instead of working on it, you just sit around being annoyed that it wasn't finished. Yeah.
I had to learn how to animate. I'm a live action filmmaker, and he told me this amazing story, and I said we should animate it, and he said okay. So who's going to do that? And then we did, but he knew how to animate. I did not. I knew how to draw, but I didn't know how to animate, and that was it. And that's the truth of the matter. And I think that's why it came out the way it did.
Thank you for the question. For me, working on the history of white people in America conjured up a lot of ancestral trauma, looking back at the historical record and then calling on my ancestors, not only as hip hop artists, but West African griots and spirituals and storytellers. We had to conjure all that up in order to produce the music and to tell the story the right way. And there's an episode coming up about Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings and their relationship. And this is an episode that I wrote and performed with my mom, mother and son, talking about this story. And we both had dreams and nightmares about the conditions that our ancestors went through. So kind of processing that trauma and then translating it into art was probably the biggest challenge for me.
For me, the biggest challenge was actually to finish this, because this film is improvised, so there was no script writing, no storyboarding, no sketches. I just animated, and it's a result of a crowdfunding campaign. So also I could not let down all the people all the names you see at the end of the film are the names of the people who contributed to the budget. And it's also an educational project, because I wrote articles about everything that is in the film, about every bridge, every landmark that is gone, so you can go to this page on Facebook and read about everything that you saw.
Water is always really difficult in stop motion, and our film required an ocean. And so this guy right here, Javen Ivy, he built a 300 square foot wave table, is what we called it. And it consisted of over 100 plus acrylic pistons that were all tethered together by high-test fishing line that ran back to a step motor, so we could shoot frame by frame. And then the top of the table, the surface, it was shower curtains and gesso. But the way the gesso was laid up was, and the way the frame was built was to force perspective, so a viewer would get a sense of infinity. And it was a lot of math, and I really don't know how he did it, to be honest.
The first thing for me was hitting the button and not knowing if it was going to work.
The trickiest thing for me on this short was definitely writing the ending of the short, like the big reveal, like the twist at the end when the son comes into the bedroom, and trying to figure out, or trying to make it readable and understandable to audiences, because I was storyboarding multiple versions that were too confusing or too obvious, and it required a lot of trial and error and a lot of storyboards to get it to read right. And then pork filling is also a really challenging thing to sim and animate on the computer.
Yeah. To make that look good, took a couple of months.
But the biggest challenges in Late Afternoon, there were a few, and we were very ambitious and maybe a little bit naive. Funny enough, we have a lot of experience in animation. Still, you see a few lines in a design that is very simple, and you think, oh yeah, it'll be grand, and it'll be like 5 minutes. No, it's 9 minutes, and it takes a lot more time than you think. And as you saw in the film, also the the boarding is, the perspectives are really complicated, so all the putting together all the scenes were a challenge. The effects were a big challenge also. There was the mixture between Photoshop, After Effects, and TV Paint, hand-drawn animation to get all together. And last but not least, the ending. We wanted to end on a positive note, but not in an unrealistic note, and we wanted to be very respectful and very truthful to the people that are living with the illness and their families and friends.
Now, there's one more question, and I'm going to, because my eyesight is really sucky. So, I think it's, stand, with your hand up, stand up. Is that her?
Yes.
Okay, speak loud.
So this is for 2 balloons. I understand that the visual inspiration came from that sailboat trip, but I was wondering what inspired the plot.
You know, it's always hard to back into deconstruct where ideas come from, and I really feel the best way to describe it is that it was a combination of a weather event, the setting of an ocean, and a daydream. And deep down inside, maybe it's because the engine wouldn't run on the sailboat, and it had me stressed.
Okay. Well, we want to thank all of you for coming, all of the filmmakers, and Whoopi Goldberg,